how's it going, guys? It is Hudson here coming at you with another video. And today, what I want to analyze and discuss with y'all is the Mage Legendaries. We've had some advancements for mages. Some sims are currently out, and that's what I want to go over at the moment. Regarding each of these legendaries. Now, mind you, this is pre-tuning. Blizzard recently announced that they're going to be tuning these classes, but the legendaries, I imagine, will stay mostly the same. Some may get nerfed, some may get buffed, as well as maybe some class or just spec buffs and nerfs. So that is just a forewarning to y'all while we're going through this. But I guess we can dig into things. Alright, so before I get into the spec-specific stuff, what I want to kind of explain is how the new sims have been developed. So, the Mage module, as far as I know, is mostly complete in terms of simulations, right? Simulation Craft is like the project that's like, that everybody runs their sims on for the most part. It's open source and community run, right? And the like core of the code for Mage is there, and what they are doing now is the mages are going and creating APLs. What APLs are essentially the action priority list, is what APL stands for. And what it is how your mage executes different actions. So it's being created for Fire, Frost, and Arcane right now. And from what I can tell, Frost and Arcane are nearly optimized, with some different stuff regarding Conduits, maybe a few talents, AoE, and stuff like that being optimized right now. But as far as I can tell, the single target mostly makes sense and is mostly optimized for those two. But Fire is still up in the air, and it's still early in the APL development, so that's not as definitive there. But that's about where Mage is, as far as I can tell. Again, I could be mistaken, I could have seen things wrong, but that's as far as I can tell. Now, digging into this, people have been posting their APLs that they developed, and I'll try to mention each person who has posted these, so I'm not just like showing you an APL without reference to who created it. But I guess we can start getting into Arcane. Arcane's been pretty popular in Shadowlands so far. People seem to, oh my gosh, hair fell on there. Anyway, people seem to really like Arcane so far in Shadowlands with a lot of these new changes, and I can tell you, I for one am a large fan of Arcane right now. So, as you can see, we've got the simulations right here. And the way I've made the simulations for Arcane, Frost, and Fire all be the same are people that are doing the simulations currently are keeping the same stats across all characters. You have like 600 of every base stat and then 2,000 intellect. And hopefully that will be similar to what the first tier is like. Now, without going too far into this, this is just basically how you would rank. This is basically like the rankings of the legendaries. I don't want to go into what each of one of these is, but just I'll go into the top one. So Arcane Harmony is your Arcane Missiles is just buffed by 10%, as well as it gives you a stacking buff on your Arcane Barrage by like, I think it's 2% every time a Arcane Missiles hits. And that's not like a cast of Arcane Missiles, that's like one tick of the Arcane Missiles channel. Expanded Potential is actually a generic legendary as well, and Siphon Storm is I think it was called like Brainstorm, and it was like a Azurite trait that gives you intellect whenever you channel Evocate, right? So generally when I see this, I think like, what the hell, Arcane Harmony is really the best. I guess like you could see Arcane Harmony being the best legendary, but the whole problem is like it's only a 7% gain in DPS from literally having no legendary. Where are we? Right here. Also, some of these aren't entirely implemented, so we might need to see Grizzly Ice Skull Temporal Warp. Yeah, Temporal Warp after they get fully implemented and revisit this. But this is just like a first pass with the current like in-developed sims that I want to go through, like I mentioned at the beginning. But yeah, so we'll have to revisit these once they get fully implemented and see how they are. But currently, base Arcane, right? It keeps popping up, but Arcane right here. This is the base Arcane rotation. This is all going to be with no Conduits. It's just nice to analyze these without Conduits yet. And then once we have access to the Conduits and know that they're operating properly in the sims, it's nice to then revisit that and maybe kind of isolate like legendaries, Conduits, talents, what else could we, what is it? Covenant powers, right? So if we visit all 4 of those separately and then start to combine them once we get closer to the actual release date, I think that might be the most efficient way to produce optimal sims and figure out what's most optimal to play as a mage. And currently, we just won't know what's optimal for a good bit of time. But I just want to visit these and kind of see what we can analyze from these current rankings. So 7% Arcane Harmony increases your damage by 7% from the base Arcane rotation. They're more like 6.5%. That's actually not a lot for a legendary. That doesn't feel that legendary, does it? Right? I would expect maybe 10%, maybe less than 10%. Maybe that is accurate. But it's just like whenever you read the tooltip, you're like, oh, 10% damage increase to arcane missiles. Like what? I'm not really casting other than for like clear casting procs. But it feels like everything's buffing arcane missiles, and what's crazy is that with this legendary, there's actually a rotation that is just arcane missile spamming. Essentially, I don't want to go too far into it, but it's essentially just arcane missile spamming rather than arcane blast, and it's super degenerate. It feels more degenerate than no ice lance. And it's super bad for the game, so hopefully they address that. And it seems like the conduits, legendaries, and all these added powers, borrowed powers, are pushing Arcane into being a Arcane Missiles spam spec, which if Blizzard doesn't fix, that will be the case. It may, if not this tier, next tier, possibly once these conduits get their ranks up higher. But yeah, I guess that's really it for Arcane. It's a little bit lackluster in my opinion, these legendaries, and hopefully I don't expect them to see changes, but if they did, I would hope that some of these become a little more cool, but I would not expect that. Now, on to Frost. So, Frost Mage, right here, Cold Front. What's the first thing you see here? First off, let's go down to Frost, no legendary, right here. No legendary, 7k. And then the top legendary is Cold Front right now. If you're not familiar with Cold Front is whenever you cast 15 Frost Bolts, you get a frozen orb sent at the target, right? I did not expect this. I did not expect this to be. Also, these are all single target simulations, just so you're aware. It's just the most simple way to do this, and single target seems to be implemented mostly correct, as far as I can tell at this moment, whereas AoE is still dependent on like different conduits, different covenants, and stuff like that. But I did not expect Cold Front to be that much ahead of Freezing Winds, if at all. I did not expect Cold Front to be ahead at all, actually. Cold Front is, as you saw in that Arcane simulation, Arcane Harmony is 7% above the base Arcane rotation, but Cold Front is 16.5% ahead of the base Frost rotation. Frost, no legendary right here. What the fuck? That's awesome. That's insane. Now, I actually kind of don't mind the playstyle of Cold Front. It's essentially just playing normal Frost Mage rotation with an extra, an extra frozen orb. And I think it's kind of cool, actually. And I don't think there's, I don't think it's too hard to play around. I don't think it's too easy to play around because you can need to, you can need to aim that orb at certain times and it just shoots out of where your character's facing, right? So sometimes you need to aim that. There's a little bit of play, there's a little bit of play style to that, but I think that's all right. Maybe they need to tone it down a little bit, and I possibly expect Blizzard to nerf Cold Front a wee bit. But Freezing Rains is actually, or Freezing Rain, what am I talking about? That's a talent. Freezing Winds is what I expected to be number one, because what Freezing Winds does is it gives you, every time you have your Frozen Orb active, you gain a Fingers of Frost buff, right? So you get that buffed Ice Lance every 2.5 seconds during Frozen Orb being active, and then whenever Frozen Orb isn't active, you actually, every Frostbolt you cast, you get 2.5 seconds cooldown reduction on the Frozen Orb. So I thought that because that felt really good in testing, especially in dungeons. And now currently, I don't want to go too much into the AoE sims, because like I said, they're still being developed, and it may not be reliable depending on like what talents we end up choosing, what conduits. There's like, it's like 5-dimensional, it feels like. But for the AoE stuff, it seems like Freezing Winds might take over, or possibly one of these other legendaries. But in testing, Freezing Winds did feel really good, and Cold Front didn't feel bad, actually. After seeing it sims better in single target, I started taking it in dungeons, and it doesn't feel bad, but Freezing Winds, in my opinion, feels better in terms of playstyle. Again, sims are the king for total DPS though, so I'm just talking about playstyle in terms of Freezing Winds feeling better. But I think this is kind of crazy seeing this. I don't think I expected this, and I don't think many people expected to see this, honestly. And let me know what you think in the comments, please. I think this is quite interesting. Now, let's go to fire. Let me tell you what this is, because these aren't legendaries right here. So the fire sim got posted a couple days ago by the person. Maybe it was yesterday even. I don't know. It wasn't. It was very recently. I've been developing my own fire APL, just trying to make a simple one, seeing how good like a simple APL does. And it did like I think it was 300 DPS less than what the current posted APL was. So I used the currently posted one, which was way more advanced and got, like I said, like 300 more DPS. So I used that one for this. Also, I believe Segrind from Altered Time Discord posted the Arcane one. The Frost one was posted by Nornir, I believe. I could double check that, but let's go to raid summary. And for the fire one, I believe Toe Grinder posted that, all from the Altered Time Discord. But let's get into what this is. So for fire, what Toe Grinder posted, I believe, earlier this week was that Alexstrasza's Fury, right? Your talent on. Well, let's go to the actual game. Who would have thunk we'd be in the actual game? So Alexstrasza's Fury is a talent that replaces Flame On. So instead of getting your 3 Fire Blast like Fire Mages are used to playing with, you would get your Dragon's Breath always critically strikes for 50% increased critical strike damage and contributes to Hot Streak. So it's like you replace one of your Fire Blasts with, where are we? With Dragon's Breath. Right, and Dragon's Breath has like an 18-second cooldown. Yeah, 18 seconds right there. And it buffs your next Pyroblast. So that actually was outperforming. You'll see, since it's the second in the row, that's what 2 is on this left side, and then 3 is this last row. Well, this is a sim with every Conduit at rank 1 and Sun King's Blessing legendary on. So what this had done, or what initially has happened is Alexstrasza's Fury, right? Where are we? Alexstrasza's Fury actually outperforms Flame On without any Conduits or legendaries. And Meteor is also the favorite without any Conduits or legendaries. But once you put the Conduits and legendaries on, it turns out that Flame On and Pyroclasm actually beat Alexstrasza's Fury and Meteor. So you see that 1-2 right there, 1 right here, 2 right here. So that's what I wanted to show you. And it actually outperforms it by a good bit. As you can see right there, that's like 300 DPS or so. So I just wanted to show you the logic. And there's like reasons why we pick the specific talents, through different testing. But to make this video simple, I didn't want to show you for every class. But for this class, that's why I wanted to show you, because it differs whenever you add Conduits and legendaries to it. So that's why I picked those specific talents. And I won't go through the Arcane and like the Frost and Arcane talents yet, because I don't want people to think like, oh, these are the talents that we're going to be using in Shadowlands. We don't know that yet. Stuff's still subject to tuning. I'm not going to say what talents you use, and really don't be picking these legendaries based on this. If you're watching this and Shadowlands has dropped, please watch my more recent videos. I will be creating videos that explain to you what you should be doing as a mage, based on what spec you're playing, what covenant you're playing, and I'll go through a lot of these sims more, like way more in depth once they're like fully released. And they're released along with the SimC build, whenever the Shadowlands build is released, actually, because that will be, mostly, it'll be completely developed at that point, whereas now it's still in development and not 100% reliable. So let us visit the fire legendaries. As we all know, fire derives a lot of its power from borrowed power each expansion. Right, and as we see here from the base fire rotation, actually disciplinary command looks really bad. That might be bugged. Like I said, some of these aren't fully implemented, but most of the like core, like the fire legendaries are all implemented. But let's look at fire. So Sun King's Blessing actually is a 1,000 damage increase. That's going to be close to it looks like an 18% damage increase. That is a lot. That is a lot. And Sun King's Blessing is a clear favorite right here. You can see the massive gap right here between Sun King's Blessing, Firestorm, and Molten Skyfall, right? All these ones are a gap below Sun King's Blessing. And I don't mind that. Playing with Sun King's Blessing, I've enjoyed it so far. You can clearly tell that Fire is behind in terms of DPS. That is just clear whenever you're playing as Fire in beta right now. I am not happy about it, and I think that it could most certainly use some tuning. I actually would expect some tuning to occur. As a base spec, it is most certainly behind the other two, Fire or Frost and Arcane. So that's quite unfortunate because I do enjoy the fire playstyle. Some people are happy about that, some people are not. But I think with the way AoE is right now, I don't think it would be overpowered if they buffed its damage, you know, by maybe like 10% or so. Maybe even more. It seems quite behind, honestly. But that is the ranking currently for single target for fire. Again, this is the most recently developed APL, so there can be some errors in it. There may also not be playing optimally around certain things yet. But that is the rankings, I guess, for all of them. As a whole, what do I think about the Legendaries? I think the Legendaries are pretty good for Mage. I don't mind them for Frost and Fire. I like Sun King's Blessing. I kind of like Firestorm for Fire. For Frost, I like Cold Front and Freezing Winds. I like both of those. And Arcane, I'm not the biggest fan, but I do have to say I enjoy Arcane Bombardment for AoE, and I would expect Arcane Bombardment for AoE to be chosen. I don't want to go into AoE sims yet for like multiple reasons that I already listed, like I said it like 5 times, but people came out with AoE for Arcane simulations already, and Arcane Bombardment seems to be the strongest, and just intuitively, Arcane Bombardment seems like it will be the strongest. Arcane Bombardment is your Arcane Barrage deals an additional 40% damage to any enemies below 35% health, and what Arcane Barrage does, right, is if you have 5 charges, or 4 charges in your Arcane Barrage, it hits 5 enemies, so it deals a lot of damage. So I suspect Arcane Bombardment will be the best AoE one. We will see though. Like I said, I'll be making more videos coming up. Make sure to follow, or make sure to subscribe me, I guess, and check out my Twitch if you want to be updated on some of that info as it comes out, because I will be trying to put out videos as quick as possible, because this stuff is like super interesting, and whenever I read it, I'm like, oh my god, that's crazy. Like whenever I was able to do these simulations, I was like, no way, that's sick. And whenever I didn't realize this, people posted this, and then I ran simulations to verify the Cold Front was better. It's kind of wild, man. I was like, wow. And there's gonna be a lot of stuff like that which you don't expect, like the Conduits for one. The Conduits, people have been finding that some of the, so like you have Conduits that you put into the tree, right? Well, there's ones that are just in there in the paths that you choose, and people are finding that some of those like baked in Conduits that you don't have to put in yourself, but are just in the soulbind trees already. So people are finding that some of those are actually super overpowered, and you might end up not going through a potency conduit selection or path in one of those soulbind trees. Like I said, make sure to follow me, because I will be posting about that if that occurs, because I think that's super interesting and kind of wild, something that most people should be aware of if that does occur. But we will see. I've said that about 100 times this video, sorry. But I guess that's really it. For the Sims so far. I'm excited to see what Blizzard's tuning is. Sorry, I don't mean to be away from the mic like that, but I guess we will see what Blizzard does to tune these specs. Hopefully Fire gets a little bit of a buff. Frost and Arcane seem pretty strong right now. I'm excited. Maybe just change Fire, and I think we'll be all right as a class. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and please give me any feedback. If you thought my audio or video was messed up or anything, or if you think there's anything I could change to make these videos more enjoyable or more appealing, please let me know. Other than that, thank you for watching.